Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode. This is a continuation of a series of videos I've been doing on an engine build for my Karmann Ghia. It's a standard 1300 air-cooled engine, and if you haven't seen the previous videos and you think that they may be of some help, then go and check them out. Because we're getting towards the end of this build, we're doing the little bits and pieces, and hopefully soon it's gonna run like a clock. So what have I been doing? This morning, I just threw some of this heat resistant paint onto the exhaust. I had to do a little bit of a repair on the end here. There was just a bit of rust there. The rest of it was really good. It's original Volkswagen exhaust. And also the J-tubes, because I'm doing away with the heaters. I just threw some paint on there as well. And the valve covers. And over to the engine that I'm building. We're getting there, slowly, but we're getting there. The things I need to do still is rebuild the carb. I have cleaned it, and I would like to do a rebuild because I don't know the history of it. And also the fuel pump, I would like to rebuild that because modern fuels don't get on very well with the old diaphragms. It's quite aggressive stuff, the modern fuels. So I need to order the kits to rebuild those. I have my electronic distributor in here, this 1, 2, 3 ignition. And so today I will adjust my valves. So there's probably a million videos on YouTube on how to adjust your valves on your air-cooled engine, but if you've been following this series, then I think I should cover that and do a video on it. It's pretty simple, but let's get to it. So you basically have to set the gap between the top of the valve and the rocker, and this is quite important because if it's too tight, when the metals expand, then it can bend things and damage things, and the other way, if it's too loose, then you can get like bounce and the valve won't open and close correctly. So there is a tolerance for that. And originally there was a sticker on the fan shroud that went just about here. There was one on here, but I removed it when I modified the fan shroud and painted it. So they recommend from Volkswagen, I believe they changed it over the years. It used to be 0.1 of a millimeter and then 0.15. So I have my 0.15 feeler gauge, and I also have a 0.2. So the 1.5 should fit nice and snugly. The 0.2 shouldn't go in. So that's why I've got the 0.2 here. So that is in inches, 0.006 of an inch. So let's get to it. Okay, so simple tools needed for the job: a 13mm spanner, a flat-bladed screwdriver, and of course your 0.15mm feeler gauge, or 0.006 if you're working in inches. So you have to turn over the engine to get the number 1 cylinder at top dead center. Top dead center means that the piston is at the top of its stroke, so it's at the highest point. I can't remember what size nut is on the end of this pulley, but I've just got an adjustable. So you turn over the engine by hand until you get your 0 degree mark on your pulley in line with the case joint. So once that's in line there, you can also check if you're running an original distributor, the rotor arm normally faces this kind of direction. Because I'm using an aftermarket one, that can very much vary, and in this case it's actually pointing slightly differently to original Volkswagen distributor does. So once you have your engine at top dead center on number 1, you then go to the number 1 cylinder and check out the valves. On the tinware it's clearly marked the number of each cylinder. So looking at the back of the engine, this is the front of the engine because that's the front of the car. So to the right hand side you have number 1, number 2, And then on the left hand side we have number 3 and number 4. So looking at number 1, because the piston's at top dead center, the valves will be closed, or should be closed. So that will mean that you will have a bit of play in these rockers on number 1. So if you look at number 2 here, this one is tight. Well, they're actually all loose because I've backed them off as far as they will go, but you can tell that this one is a lot tighter than this one that's kind of blowing in the breeze. So we know that the piston is in the correct position. So the gap is, if we pull the lifter away, the gap is between the lifter face adjustment screw and the top of the valve. So in here and here. So we need to basically, you back off this 13mm nut, and then you wind in your adjuster with your feeler gauge in there, and you don't wind this all in so it's tight. You need to get like this nice amount of drag. See, that's too tight now. So if I just back that off a little bit, it moves in there nice and freely. Just a little bit of drag on there. Like that. So once you have that in place, or that adjustment right, you then want to hold the position of that adjuster, and then you just want to nip this nut up. Like that. And there we have a nice adjustment. So then you do exactly the same on the next one. Like that, and then just nip this up. Perfect. Okay, so that's your number 1 done. Pretty simple stuff. Now to do number 2, you have to again move your pulley. Now the little trick here is that you move this anti-clockwise 180 degrees, and then that will put your number 2 cylinder, piston at top dead center. Okay, you may or may not be able to see on this camera, but there's a little notch in this pulley, and you line that up with the joint here of the 2 halves of the case. And now what we need to do to get number 2 piston at top dead center is we need to rotate this anti-clockwise 180 degrees. Now some people put a mark on the opposite side of this pulley, so then they can line that up quite easily. But this is an original pulley and it doesn't have one. Some of them actually have the degrees printed on them for more high performance cars. So I'm just going to get a paint pen and I'm just going to dab a little bit on the notch like that, and then I'm going to put a little dot on the end here like that, that lines up with that notch, and then I'm going to get my adjustable spanner and rotate this 100, it's a bit stiff, 180 degrees. So that mark I just made is quite clearly visible, so you can actually feel it, the engine relaxes a little bit when you know you're in pretty much the right position. So that is pretty much 180 degrees, spot on pretty much. So then we go around to our number 2, and these 2 should be loose, which they are. You can see they're about even, and these are backed right off like I said. Okay, so that's nice and freely moving. So that's my setting for the 0.15 of a millimeter. I also mentioned that I had this 0.2, so the 0.2 should be too big and it shouldn't fit in the gap. So it's a good indication that you have got your setting right. So yeah, that won't go in there, so that's perfect. So let's do the next one. So it's the same procedure again to set number 3, is that we need to rotate this anti-clockwise 180 degrees. And as you notice that every time you rotate this pulley 180 degrees, your rotor is pointing to the next point on the distributor. So as I said before, number 1 is normally pointing this way. So you pretty much know with a standard distributor that you are top dead center on number 1. Now we've rotated this. This has moved around to number 2 on your distributor cap. So we're going to now rotate this again 180 degrees and it's going to point at number 3. Okay, so you can see there's our mark. Distributor's moved. That's pretty much where number 3 is. So we know we're in the right place. So we move round to the left hand side of the engine and clearly marked. There's our number 3 and these should be loose. Perfect. And you can see with this number 4, one is really loose and one is tighter. So number 3 is now set. Last but not least, we do exactly the same as the last 3 and we're going to anti-clockwise 180 degrees. We go around to number 4, make sure that these are both evenly loose, which they are. So we just tighten those up and we're good to go. So now we are ready to put our rocker covers on, and you need to use these cork gaskets. So always make sure the face here is nice and clean and doesn't have any damage. Some people choose to put a bit of aviation sealer on one side and stick it to the rocker cover to stop it from moving when you put it on, but I'm not going to. I don't normally have trouble with it. And then you just click that on like that. Next, I'm going to put the HT leads on, or the ignition leads as they're also called. So I got these from Peruzzi, and this brand Baru is very good quality. This is one of the things I don't like to cut corners with price or quality, because you can have ignition problems and all sorts if you don't have good quality leads. I think they were about 70 something euros, so they're not cheap, but they're very good. So we're going to put those on next. One thing I forgot to order was these little clips which retain the leads and keep them nice and tidy. There are holes in the fan shroud. You can see one there, there's one at the back, and then there's one here, but I can run the leads without them. So the leads are already made up. You can just plug and play, as they say, and they are of various lengths. So the shortest one here is actually that goes from your cap to your coil, so we'll put that one aside. So this is the end that goes on the spark plug, which seals the holes on the tinware, and as I say, they come in various lengths, so let's put them on. It also comes with these gold plated ends that go on the end of your spark plugs. I'm just going to use the ones that were on there originally. They should be fine. So the reason I rotated the engine so number 1 cylinder is at top dead center is because this determines where the lead for number 1 spark plug will go onto the cap. So we can actually button this up, put these clips on. So let's start with the number 1 lead, which will be quite a long route. Okay, so in our pack we actually have 2 longer leads and 2 shorter ones. So I'm going to take one of the longer ones. So as I said before, this end goes on our spark plug. So that clicks on there nicely, and then you follow the route to where the clips will go. So this will go underneath here, like so. And then we just plug this into our number 1 spot. So the firing order for a Volkswagen flat 4 engine is 1432. And these engines, or these distributors, rotate clockwise. So we've determined that this is number 1 cylinder. So we go around clockwise. The next one is going to be number 4. So number 4 is just here. So that will be one of the 2 shorter leads. Okay, so number 4, we'll click this on here. And you see that that still fits nice and snugly against the tinware. And then we're just going to quite simply bring this around here. That will click into there nicely when I get the clips. And then we push this into the cap and then put the little dust shield over. So next we'll take the second shorter lead, because number 3 is not that far from the distributor either. So we'll clip that in there. We'll bring that around, that will clip in there, and then just slot into number 3. Like so, dust shield down. So lastly, number 2, which is here. So the 4th lead and another long one, we'll slip it underneath the dynamo. Like so. And then we'll slip it into what will be number 2. Done. Then that just leaves this short one, which has the same end on each end, and that just goes in the middle here, and then it goes into our coil, like so. So there we have it, just a really quick video which I thought I would do. I'm going to follow every step of the way. Today I'm going to order all the parts I need to get this finished. And I'll do a carb rebuild video and a fuel pump rebuild video. I just started loosely putting on the exhaust just to make sure everything fits. I don't have the exhaust kit yet with the gaskets, etc. So that's another thing I'm going to order. But we're getting very close, right? So again, thanks for watching. I hope this has been of some help to some of you out there building your own engine. Please click the like button, please click the subscribe button. It really does help me make more videos for the future. So again, thanks a lot.